Welcome to Stay Healthy Daily Routines, doing whatever it takes. In this part, we are talking about developing caregiver survival skills. I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I am your host for this webinar. I thank you so much for being with me. As always, we are going to advance and talk about housekeeping. I substitute the term elderly parent or elderly parents for the person for whom you are taking care of. The outline for this module is in the course materials. Please do print it out as well as the slide handouts so that you can take notes and follow along with me. The objectives of developing caregiver survival skills mean that you should be able to implement activities to refocus attention and energy. You should be able to introduce talking points with elderly parents to introduce that idea of establishing a daily routine so that you can manage activities and schedule projects with elderly parents. Being a caregiver sometimes can involve wishful thinking. This means hoping that the situation of care for an elderly parent will get better without us taking any action. Some family members ignore problems with elderly parents by waiting until there's no other choice but to act. That usually doesn't work out the way that we expect. As daily activities become more difficult to perform and the health of elderly parents decline, doing nothing only results in more emotional stress for the caregiver and family members in the long run. In this part, we talk about a variety of caregiver survival skills and tips for creating that caregiver routine to increase focus and reduce stress. Dwelling on concerns about the care of elderly parents can distract us from performing at work, and it can cause mistakes that result from being inattentive in many parts of our lives. Let's talk about mental exhaustion and what I call burning through time. Have you ever noticed when you are mentally exhausted, you have this sensation that you just burn through time, that it passes so quickly? If you're at work, an entire day might pass and you've not checked off a single item off your project list. How many times does that happen? The same goes for being at home. The day goes by, that list you had with 10 items, 2 or none may be completed. You might be at a point where you are mentally exhausted and you can't focus. Caregiver exhaustion improves with a mind and a mood reset. A reset is a break where you can clear your mind. If you are inside the house or at work, find a place where you can take a break from light and noise. A quiet room where you can turn off the lights and sit. If there are shades or curtains, close them. Sit in the dark in the quiet for 10 minutes to calm your mind and your overactive brain that will not stop. Clear your mind by focusing on a mental picture of relaxation. Maybe you are sitting on a bench, out in nature, any visual, even a blank white wall, whatever it takes to calm and slow your mind. Send chaotic thoughts away. If you meditate, this would be a great time to meditate. Meditate in a quiet, dark room. The action of getting away from noise and commotion, even for 10 minutes, helps relieve caregiver exhaustion. It calms the mind, and it helps you return to being able to focus. There is a term called overstimulation. It applies to all of us, including our elderly parents. Overstimulation is especially disturbing to elderly parents who have dementia, because they have a diagnosed brain injury that makes it difficult to understand too many actions occurring at once, and they lack the ability to slow down their brain, to slow down their thoughts, and to focus. Overstimulation for them just continues to happen. Being in a noisy place with other people, constant movement, constant shuffling, multiple conversations going on in the background, these are examples of overstimulation. It happens when our brain and our mind take on too much information and we can't pay attention. How do you know if your brain is overstimulated? Do you bite your fingernails? Do you find it challenging to sit still, to concentrate, and to complete a single project in a single setting? Is your mind racing with thoughts and plans that you have to complete? Do you have trouble sleeping because you wake up worried about elderly parents, or you have so much on your mind that your brain keeps running through that checklist? Sugar cravings, headaches, stomach upset, heart palpitations, feeling anxious or lightheaded are all symptoms of being overstimulated. I want to talk for a minute about the idea of worry time. When we become overstimulated and we worry, our mind will race and it's difficult to stop it. It's difficult to refocus ourselves. There is a concept called worry time, where our goal is to set aside a time of day, every day, same time of day, to worry, whether it's 8 a.m., noon, 5 p.m., 8 p.m. As you go through the day and a worry thought comes into your mind, pick up a pen, write down the worry on a piece of paper, and say, I can't worry about that now. I will worry about it at 8 o'clock tonight. At 8 o'clock tonight, take out your piece of paper, look at all the worries that you wrote down, write down some more worries, figure out what you're going to worry about. Give yourself 15 minutes to do that. You will find that if you practice this routine, if you are consistent with this worry routine, you'll worry less. And when you get to that worry time, there will be fewer worries on your list. This is another example of a positive routine. There are so many routines that we can create for ourselves that help reduce worry, fear, and frustration in caring for elderly parents. Let's talk about attention restoration therapy. This is one of my favorites. Attention restoration therapy is a solution that restores our attention so that we can block time for projects and plan routines. When we're exhausted, we may be going through the motions of a task, but not doing a good job. Actions to deal with or overcome any situation are called coping. Coping is the feeling of struggling or trying to balance situations that throw us into feeling distressed. Attention restoration therapy is the idea that mental concentration improves after having access to or spending time in nature, spending time outside. For example, research studies show that directed attention, which is the ability to focus on a project for an extended period of time, directed attention improves after we spend time in nature listening to natural sounds, the breeze blowing, birds chirping. Caregiving requires concentration and a high degree of organizational brain power. In another module, we talked about executive skills. Do you remember that? And how the brain becomes tasked to perform to completing tasks at once. For example, for us, working on the computer and talking on the phone. For elderly parents, it might be walking and listening to music, walking and talking to someone. Working caregivers, we are multitaskers, but multitasking can result in mental exhaustion. You might be working and devoting time to building a career. You're also completing tasks for elderly parents. Spouses and your children want your attention. And caregivers have needs. We have needs for self-attention and self-care that we usually place on the back burner in favor of giving attention to everyone else. Caregiver exhaustion, it is real. Being tired of caring for elderly parents has effects on our body and our mind, even though we love our elderly parents dearly. Take a look at this photo for a moment. Let's talk about the mental health effects and benefits of nature. Another tip for calming an exhausted mind and body is spending time in nature. Just 10 to 30 minutes a day can help restore attention and the ability to focus. If you have an office with a window that looks out into nature, instead of looking at another office building, that that view of nature, even though you're inside, can reset your attention. Make time to take a drive in the car to an area with views of nature. Take a walk, sit in a park, any activity that takes you away from the focus of work, from the focus of being inside, watching television, looking at your cell phone, sitting at your desk. Getting outside can reset the mind. Bring a picture of yourself or a picture like you see on this slide. Put it on your desk. Having a scenic nature calendar next to your work area is a good idea. Put a scene on your computer. Find a poster or a painting of the outdoors. Hang it in your workspace. Another tip is white noise machines with background sounds of waves, the wind blowing, birds chirping. That can help us refocus our attention and minimize distractions. Although creating that background noise might not be appropriate if you work in a common area with other people. It might work great if you have an office of your own where you can close the door. It's important for caregivers to create me time, and I purposely put this photo of an elderly woman who is using a walker out fishing. As you will hear me say through this program, getting old and sick is optional. It's up to us. It's based on what we do today, what we'll be able to do when we're 70, 80, 90, or even 100. A commitment to consistent daily patterns to release worries, that worry time, send away negative thoughts, send away emotions. That is another caregiver survival skill. Do you have a routine for this for you time? If you don't have a personal me time routine, I suggest creating one. Try a few activities. See what works for you and put it in your caregiver survival school kit routine. It is necessary for us to clear our minds, to stay away from negative emotions, because if we have negative thoughts and worry, balancing caregiver concerns will be harder. It will be a more difficult road because care needs for our elderly parents, they will only grow in complications and complexity. Music, taking a bath, reading the newspaper, going outdoors for a walk, going fishing like the lady in this photo, meditating or sitting in that dark room, sitting outside, reading a spiritual or motivational book, or participating in another activity that calms and comforts you. The importance of caregiving survival skills is to balance the reality of caregiver mental and physical exhaustion that happens. The goal is to create solutions so you have time for yourself because, as we know, as caregivers, we rarely have enough time to get everything done unless we create consistent routines, and there's never, ever enough time for ourselves. How do we balance work life and caregiving? Creating that routine that supports your focus and reduces stress is essential for surviving as a caregiver. Let's talk more about caregiver survival skills and managing care situations. When we look at caregiver survival skills, we look at the event or the problem that we want to solve or survive, and we develop a plan. In caregiving situations, the problem is balancing our caregiving work, personal and family life by putting in place a routine, by implementing a routine to minimize unexpected and urgent situations that demand immediate attention for elderly parents. We're happy to help, but we would like it to be on our schedule, on our timeframes. The challenge is that if this plan were totally up to us, it would be easier to manage. But in most cases, that plan involves an elderly parent, a grandparent, a spouse, another family member who also may be helping. Trying to work through the situation requires discussions and building agreement about that routine with elderly parents. In this situation of managing time, you're not really asking an elderly parent for approval of the routine. You are sharing information about how you can help, the things that you can do, and you're asking for their 50-50 participation. This whole idea tracks back to, I'm willing to help. I need you to help me. And I know that a lot of you are thinking, oh, routines, it's more work for me. It's going to be so hard. I don't know if I can do it. You can do it. It does take a little bit of time up front, but the time up front that you devote to creating project lists and task lists and planning and routines will save you so much time later. And if you don't have this discussion now with yourself or with your elderly parent, you're just procrastinating. You're postponing the inevitable crash that will happen, and you will not be prepared. You're not helping yourself or an elderly parent by delaying participating and creating routines and habits. How do we move these situations forward? Life has two modes. I like to say it is the try and the do mode. When we become exhausted as caregivers, we feel out of control, life is spinning in circles, we lean toward that try mode. Because when we're tired and someone makes a suggestion to us like, I am making to you now, what do we say? We say, well, I'll try to do that. I'll try to get that done. Because we're not sure if we're really going to try or not. We're not sure whether we are going to put that effort forward. We haven't committed. When a more serious problem arises that focuses us to pay attention, that try situation progresses into a do situation. If you feel stuck thinking about the idea of establishing routines and processes, that means that you might have a gap. Could be a knowledge gap, an uncertainty gap, or a fear gap. What is it you are afraid of? Why are you delaying? Do you know? There are times when we all need a little help to clear up this uncertainty. If making your daily life less complicated, less stressful is your goal, what steps or information do you need to move forward? Is your gap planning time, making that list, committing to complete a list? Create a routine. Are your computer skills rusty? Are you doubtful that your elderly parent will participate? Do you have a confidence gap? We all have confidence gaps. A typical response to a situation where we're not sure if we can succeed is for our mind to concoct all types of reasons for why trying something new won't work. Why? Because the suggestion might initially take us more work, more time or effort, like I mentioned. There's a fear that we don't want to put in all this effort and fail or be wrong. What if we fail and we waste time and we're no further along? What gap is holding you back from trying? What gap is holding you back from moving a situation forward? You're here because you know that it's time to try something new. Don't hesitate. Make being open-minded and learning part of creating your caregiver survival skills kit. Be curious and become resilient. Keep bouncing back. I know you can do it. Keep going. I know you can do it. There's no doubt you will succeed if you implement these systems, processes, and routines. Let's talk about some more ways to keep going and moving forward. Understanding your body clock. Coping can feel like pushing through a wall. You get to the other side and you are exhausted and there's more work. To be successful, we need a clear and focused mind. Think about your body clock. Are you Superman or Superwoman in the morning and less focused and less efficient in the afternoon? Or do you need time to get going in the morning? You're better midday, and in the afternoon, you are a steamroller. Nobody can stop you. What time of day is your superpower time? Complete tasks that require greater mental concentration and focus during that superpower time. Work on more routine tasks that don't require so much brain power during times of the day when your energy and attention are lower. Make your body clock work for you. Create a list of caregiving and life tasks. These are tasks that you complete outside of work. Create a schedule and a routine on paper. Use a calendar, your phone, a computer, whatever method you will commit to using every single day, day in and day out. I find that when I have a lot to do, it's easier if I document what I have to complete and what I have to accomplish. This goes back to conserving my brain power. When I write it down and check it on the list, I don't have to remember it. Project planning and list planning are skills that I spent a lot of time teaching my staff because somewhere along the way in the workplace, no one taught them time management skills. They are so important. I can tell you that normally I have my weeks planned out at least 1 to 2 weeks in advance, sometimes beyond that. I have exactly what I'm going to do on those days on my list and on my calendar. I couldn't tell you right now what I'm doing tomorrow, but I can tell you that when I end my day today and look at my list, I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. And when I get to my desk tomorrow morning and I pull up that list, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't have to waste brain power thinking about what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do? Did I forget to do something? I also use my email, my Outlook, to put in particular reminders for things I have to accomplish by a particular time of day or other personal things that I need to remember. The more that you do this, the more that it becomes second nature and the easier that your life becomes. I know it works. I've taught this skill to so many people. It can work if you're willing to be open-minded and try it consistently. Let's talk about estimating some caregiving time. So very important. It's super important to be realistic about time. And I'm going to go back to the previous slide here because I want to talk about overscheduling. Caregivers overschedule their time. Many caregivers believe that they can get more accomplished than is possible in their personal lives, in their work life, and this overscheduling, the last line on this slide, results in exhaustion. Creating and evaluating progress toward a routine helps you plan better. As you create that calendar and list of projects like I do, estimate the time that you'll need to complete the projects. For example, grocery shopping for mom that includes creating a list, going to the store, delivering, and putting away the groceries. You think it's a 2-hour routine. When you actually do it, is it or isn't it? That time estimate allows you to evaluate whether your estimate was correct. As you complete this project, track your time. As you complete other projects, track your time. You'll know if your estimate was short or long, and soon you will be able to estimate the time that it takes you to get things done, and you'll become less exhausted and you will plan better. This falls into the idea of estimating your caregiving time. You'll be able to estimate the time that it takes you every week, the time that you devote to caring for an elderly parent. That way, if you hit a snag and you need the assistance of a brother or sister, you can ask them for help and give them a realistic amount of time that it takes to complete a project. When your elderly parent wants more of your time, you can clearly say, Mom, Dad, I am helping you on average 10, 20, 30 or more hours a week. I know that because I track it. I can't do it anymore. We need another plan for my brothers and sisters to help, or we can hire caregivers, or we can move you into a care community as your needs continue to increase, but I can't do it all. Mom or Dad, which one of these would you like to investigate? Estimating caregiving time helps caregivers set boundaries with elderly parents and with other family members. This conversation puts an elderly parent on notice that they need to be as independent as possible to help you maintain the current routine. Being detailed about your time commitment also supports having that conversation about care needs and creating that alternate plan of care for elderly parents with brothers and sisters or someone else helping out. And you're also helping your elderly parents make a decision about how they want to receive more help. Is it them doing more for themselves? Is it having your brothers and sisters help, in-home caregivers, or moving? The objective here is never to be in a situation that you have allowed to spiral out of control. And many caregivers do this because you don't know that these are conversations that you should have. You might be there now where your situation is out of control. These steps, these processes, these routines, everything that we are talking about in this program will help you regain control of your life. So many caregivers who feel out of control tell me that they dream about running away because they have created unsustainable situations that are harming their health and well-being, their work, their life, and their family. Feeling out of control turns into that, you may have heard the saying, between a rock and a hard place, where any choice we make is not ideal. It is not uncomfortable. If you can back up the situation, you won't arrive at that feeling out of control and being between a rock and a hard place. You will be able to end power struggles. If you're balancing work, caregiving for an elderly parent, and taking care of your family, you have your hands full. You know this. Expectations and demands from elderly parents who have little idea of your schedule or your responsibilities push you close to that, just one more thing is going to push me over the edge thinking. The situation is common in part because of the age gap between adult children caregivers and elderly parents that could be 20, 30, or more years. Life experiences, work experiences, and technology changes significantly in the span of a few years. This results in generational gaps that affect perceptions about caregiving and time and what it takes to do things. The big question is, how do you manage through this? Let's start by choosing a goal. Do you want to end unexpected demands for instant attention from your parents? Do you want to manage the time that you spend with elderly parents better? Do you want to stop allowing your parents to pull you here, there, and everywhere, and constant distractions and worry? Do you want to choose the days and times you'll visit your parents? Do you want to identify the tasks that you complete every time you visit? How about having a backup plan that you keep to yourself for situations that really are emergencies? Creating a parent routine to end power struggles helps you avoid that caregiving trap of always feeling that you have to be immediately available every time an elderly parent calls. You get nervous every time the phone rings. Instead of all that, you'll feel more in control, more able to balance caregiving, life, and work. Let's talk about daily, weekly, and special routines. As you are creating this parent routine, if other family members exist, invite them, involve them. The error that most primary family caregivers make is that you take on everything. You end up being the sole caregiver. That creates a situation that is a train wreck waiting to happen. A crisis waiting to happen when, guess what? You become exhausted. You realize that caregiving is having a significant negative effect on your physical health and your mental health. While involving others may seem initially like more work, think about the idea of planning. That initially feels like more work. In the long run, though, if you can arrive at a workable situation with other family members who are willing to help, the care situation for your parent will be better and you will feel less stressed. Ask family members to do tasks that focus on their strengths and to which they will commit. This may mean that your brothers do outdoor work, home repairs, and projects with mom or dad. They may be the contact for insurance companies for picking up prescriptions and taking the grandchildren to visit. Women sometimes tend to perform or prefer more nurturing activities. Sisters might help mom or dad with personal care, pick up groceries, cook meals, attend doctor appointments. A family member who likes numbers or finances or math may be the person who helps with paying bills and doing the income taxes. As we know, not every task or routine is enjoyable for everybody. However, if you can divide up the projects, the less pleasant tasks won't be so unpleasant because people who enjoy them will be doing those tasks. More on this subject is in the Caring Generation podcast. It is called Siblings Won't Help Care for Elderly Parents. What to do, how to manage that. I talk about having family meetings. It is a very helpful podcast. Check it out. Let's talk more about elderly parent routines. When elderly parents begin losing their independence and rely more on you, they might become nervous or anxious. They might want things done right now. The idea of wanting your attention right now is because your elderly parents may not have a daily routine. You may not have talked to them about a daily routine. They have nothing to keep themselves occupied and busy but worrying about you, when you are going to call, when you are going to come and visit. They have a lot of extra time on their hands. They might be bored. Waiting on you becomes their entire world. You become their total focus. And on the other hand, you're trying to live your life. This plan helps your elderly parent to stay healthy and develop a daily routine. A parent routine takes the pressure off of you to be available for every phone call and every perceived emergency. I say perceived emergency because an emergency to your elderly parent might be a light bulb that burns out, which is clearly not an emergency to you. Elderly parents, parents with dementia, Alzheimer's, or memory loss benefit from a written schedule and notes for a similar reason. When memory difficulties exist, posting a schedule in a commonly used place, like on or near the bathroom mirror, on the refrigerator, helps reduce anxiety about what is going to happen today for your elderly parents. Let's talk about what a sample routine might look like for an elderly parent. You can develop these routines around the idea of daily activities that all of us do to prepare for the beginning, middle, and the end of the day. Also, throw in there activities that support health and well-being. Depending on the health needs of an elderly parent, these could be activities like exercise, mental activities, brain puzzles, socialization, calling friends, engaging in hobbies, or preparing healthy meals. Get out a pen. I'm going to give you some examples of a parent schedule. An example of a parent schedule is, for example, I wake up, I bathe or shower, brush my teeth, do skin and hair care, shower, trim my fingernails, then I get dressed, make breakfast. I have a morning activity. It could be physical exercise, cleaning the house, running errand. Then I come back and it's lunchtime. I make lunch. I have activities that I do in the afternoon. Maybe it's reading the newspaper, reading a book, checking emails, taking a course on the computer, calling a friend. Maybe I get out of the house and do something physical. Then it's almost dinner time. I have to prepare dinner. After dinner, I relax. Maybe I watch the news. I do some personal care. Maybe I take my bath or shower at night, read, watch television, engage in another hobby, and then I go to bed. Consistency and routine are essential in managing the expectations of elderly parents about your time and assistance. Daily routines benefit elderly parents, and it gives them a purpose to get out of bed in the morning and do something every day. Let's summarize these ideas for developing caregiver survival skills that are skills for you, but they're also skills and projects for your elderly parents. Developing a set of caregiver survival skills puts you on the path toward feeling less stressed and more in control. Parents who have routines feel less stressed. They know what to expect every day. They have a reason to get out of bed every day. They may feel better about themselves. All aspects of life benefit from routines and time-saving tips. The tips and strategies that you use in your work life benefit your caregiving life, and the tips and strategies that you are developing here in this caregiving program, I can predict will improve your work life, your personal life, and many aspects of your life. Don't wait today. Start developing your caregiver survival skills today. You will see progress in a short matter of time. I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Thank you for joining me for this webinar, for this module. I so appreciate your time. It is my pleasure to be with you, and I will see you soon in another webinar.